Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive.
Always. What do we got this time?
Today, we're going back to the 1980s
Okay.
for a pair of stories
Mm-hmm.
about shocking crimes and the people
Mm-hmm.
caught in the middle of it all. One's a murder mystery from a quiet English village.
Small town secrets. Love those.
And the other, well, let's just say for our second story, we're going to be dealing with a guy
Okay.
who was really good at breaking out of prison.
Ooh. Someone who took breaking out, literally.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So first up,
Yeah.
Leighton Buzzard, England.
Okay.
Picture this. Picture this. You're in a cute little village,
Mm-hmm.
charming shops, cobblestone streets, you know, the kind of place where you think the biggest crime is someone stealing a biscuit from the afternoon tea tray.
Right.
But in 1981, that peace and quiet
Yeah.
was shattered by a brutal murder. And
Uh,
that's where our deep dive begins.
Alright.
This is the story of Carol Morgan,
mm-hmm.
a beloved local shopkeeper,
Okay.
a devoted mother of two whose life was tragically cut short
Oh.
in her own store.
In her shop.
Yeah, her shop. And for decades, this case went cold,
Oh.
leaving everyone in the village wondering
All right.
what really happened. So let's set the scene. It's August 13th, 1981,
Mm-hmm.
a Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Carol's husband, Alan,
Okay.
takes her two teenage kids,
All right.
Bean and Jane, to the movies.
To the cinema.
Yeah, to a double feature in a nearby town.
Okay.
Now, this is already kind of strange.
How so?
Well, because Alan wasn't really known for being super close to the kids.
Interesting.
But on this particular night,
Yeah.
they all go to the cinema together,
Mm-hmm.
which, as we'll see,
Okay.
ends up giving Alan what looks like a pretty solid alibi.
Right. Right.
Because when Alan and the kids get back home,
Yeah.
they find the shop's been ransacked,
Oh.
and Carol's body is
Okay.
found in the back room.
Oh, that's awful.
It was a really brutal crime, the level of violence.
I could only imagine.
I mean, it sent shockwaves through the whole community.
Yeah, of course.
So at first, the police,
Mhm.
they're focused on finding the killer, right?
Yeah.
There was a young man seen hanging around the shop
Oh, okay.
that evening, so they think maybe he's the guy.
Makes sense.
But the more they dig into things,
Yeah.
the more Alan's behavior just starts to seem
Right.
really off.
In what way?
Well, he's just oddly detached when he talks about Carol's death, you know?
Like, he's not that upset.
Yeah, like almost emotionless.
Mm.
Plus, he's way more focused on, like, how much money was stolen
Oh.
from the robbery than the
Mhm.
fact that his wife was murdered.
Wow.
And then they start digging into the marriage itself.
Oh, so it wasn't.
And it turns out things weren't as perfect
Right.
as they might have seemed at first glance.
Of course. Yeah.
Turns out,
Yeah.
Alan had a bit of a reputation
Really?
for playing the field, you know,
A philanderer. Huh.
basically. Lots of rumors of affairs, and
Oh, wow.
one in particular with a woman named Margaret,
Okay.
which really caused tension in the marriage.
I bet.
And this, combined with
Oh.
some financial troubles they were having,
Mm-hmm.
well, it all starts to point the investigators in a whole new direction.
Towards a different motive.
Exactly. Because you see, the shop wasn't actually doing that well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, there were bounce checks,
Yeah.
talk of selling the business,
Mm-hmm.
and they had this big loan they were carrying.
Okay.
And get this,
Yeah.
the loan was tied to life insurance policies
Oh, wow.
on both Alan and Carol.
Interesting.
So now you start to see how this all fits together. A struggling business,
Mm-hmm.
a rocky marriage,
Yeah.
and a big life insurance payout
Right.
that could solve all of Alan's problems.
So the question becomes, was Carol's murder a crime of passion or was it planned?
That's the million-dollar question. And to make things even more complicated,
Oh, no.
a local businessman, clearly shaken up by the murder, decides to offer a big reward
Oh, wow.
for any information leading to the killer,
Okay.
which, you know, makes Alan's seeming indifference even more suspicious.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, here's this guy so
Oh.
concerned about getting justice for Carol.
Yeah.
And her own husband is just,
Not as interested.
yeah.
Wow.
And for years, that's where the case stayed, unsolved.
Really?
The police, they suspected Alan,
Mm-hmm.
but they just didn't have enough to arrest him.
No concrete evidence.
Nope. Until 2018,
Oh.
when a cold case team takes a fresh look at everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when a key witness finally comes forward.
After all that time.
Yeah. A woman named Jane Bunting, who knew Alan's mistress, Margaret.
Oh, wow. I bet that shook things up.
You bet it did.
Yeah.
Because what she tells the police changes everything.
What'd you say?
Jane tells them that months before the murder,
Yeah.
Alan had actually asked her, kind of jokingly,
Hmm.
if she knew anyone who could get rid of his wife.
Oh my...
Imagine keeping that secret for nearly 40 years.
I can't even imagine. What do you think finally made her talk?
It's hard to say, but with Jane's testimony and the whole financial motive,
Yeah.
the police finally had enough to go after Alan.
So what happened?
So they arrest Alan and Margaret in 2019,
Wow.
charging them with conspiracy to murder.
Oh.
But as we'll see, getting justice
Right.
isn't always so simple.
I bet. And, you know, this whole thing had such a devastating impact on Carol's kids, Dean and Jane.
It's just heartbreaking.
Huh.
After the murder, they went to live with Alan and Margaret.
Really?
Yeah, and they even cut off contact with Carol's parents, their grandparents.
Oh, wow.
They sent these letters saying they wanted a fresh start,
Mm,
But Carol's parents always believed Alan was behind those letters.
you think so?
Yeah, like it was one last way to control things,
Oh, wow.
to keep those kids away from anyone who might...
Suspect him.
Exactly.
That's just awful.
It really is. So anyway, fast forward to the trial. Margaret, she's acquitted.
Huh.
But in 2024,
Yeah.
Alan is found guilty
Wow.
and sentenced to life in prison.
So justice was served.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is, this whole thing just tore the family apart.
Makes sense.
I mean, after the trial, Dean, he still believed Alan was innocent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he called Alan up wanting an explanation. But Alan just hung up on him,
Oh, no.
totally cut him off.
Wow, that's cold.
It is. And then there's Jane, who was only 12 when Carol was killed.
Yeah.
She gave this really powerful statement at Alan's sentencing
About...
about how the man who was supposed to protect her,
Right.
be there for her,
Yeah.
turned out to be the one who orchestrated her mother's death.
Oh, gosh, that's heavy.
It is. Talk about a betrayal.
Definitely. But you know what gets me? We still don't know who the actual killer is.
Right.
Like, Alan was convicted, but the person who actually pulled the trigger,
Right.
they're still out there?
It's crazy. It's like there's this big missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. No real closure, I guess.
Not really. Okay, so now let's switch gears completely.
Okay, where are we going now?
We're headed to 1980s Paris
Paris.
to meet a guy named Michel Vaujour.
Michel Vaujour. All right.
And Michel was, well, he was kind of infamous
right.
for being really, really good at breaking out of prison.
Oh, come on. Like a real-life Houdini?
Seriously, we're talking helicopter escapes.
No way.
Fake guns made of soap,
Wait, what?
even keys carved from Baby Bell cheese wax.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding. This guy was like a master of escape.
That's amazing.
It is, but it's also a story about how a life of crime can take over.
The slippery slope.
And how even when you think you found freedom, the past can still come back to haunt you.
I bet. So how did this guy even end up in prison in the first place?
Well, he had a rough childhood. Abusive father, lost his favorite aunt when he was young.
Oh, that's tough.
And get this, his parents gave away his dog, Rita.
No, poor guy.
Yeah. So maybe it's no surprise that he started acting out.
Right.
Teenage years. He starts stealing cars.
Just for fun or...
I guess. But at 19, he gets caught
Uh-oh.
and lands in prison.
That'll do it.
But for Michel, prison wasn't a punishment, it was a challenge.
A challenge.
It's like a puzzle to be solved.
Oh, interesting.
So he escapes.
He did. Just like that.
Twice.
No way.
How? First time, he scaled the prison wall.
Seriously?
Yeah, like something out of a movie.
Wow.
Then he convinces another prisoner to switch places with him during outside work duty.
That's clever.
Right.
Okay.
And each time he gets caught, the punishment just gets harsher, pushing him further down this path of escape.
Like he was determined to prove he could always break free.
Exactly. And then there's the Baby Bell cheese wax escape.
Wait, remind me about that.
So he spent months collecting those little red wax wrappers and using them to make perfect copies of the guards' keys.
You're serious?
Totally serious. Him and his cellmate, Gil, they used scrap metal to make duplicate keys.
And they got out.
They got out, leaving the guards totally baffled.
That is incredible.
It is. But sadly, all this escaping, it led to him getting mixed up in some more serious stuff.
Like what?
Armed robberies.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the stakes just kept getting higher.
And the risks, too.
Exactly. But the escape that really made Michel famous.
What? Even more famous than the cheese wax?
Oh, yeah, this one was legendary. It was a helicopter escape.
A helicopter. Come on.
I'm telling you, the stuff this guy pulled off is straight out of Hollywood.
I mean, it sounds insane. How did he even pull that off?
Well, this is where the love story comes in. Michel's wife, Nadine.
Oh, there's a wife.
Yeah, she was completely devoted to him.
Okay.
So she learns to fly a helicopter.
What?
Yeah, under a fake name and everything.
No way.
And then she flies this helicopter right over the prison.
You're kidding.
I'm serious. Michelle had a fake gun with them.
Why a fake gun?
Well, so if they got caught, Nadine wouldn't be in as much trouble.
Oh, I see. To try and protect her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And somehow, against all odds,
Yeah.
he grabs onto the helicopter.
I did.
They land in a nearby field and just disappear.
That is wild.
It's like something out of a movie, right?
Totally. So what happened after that? Did they live happily ever after?
Not exactly. I mean, they were free for a while,
Yeah.
but they needed money, to
Really?
start a new life.
Yeah.
So Michelle, he goes back to his old ways.
Oh, no. Back to robbery?
Yeah, the armed robbery,
That's too bad. So they got caught again.
eventually. During a robbery, there's a shootout with the police,
Oh, no.
and Michelle gets shot in the head.
Oh, my gosh. Is he?
It's amazing he actually survived.
Wow. That's incredible. But what about Nadine?
Well, their relationship, it couldn't survive all the stress and the danger.
Right.
They end up getting divorced.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. And Michelle ends up back in prison, this time in solitary confinement.
So all that for nothing.
Pretty much. But even in solitary, his story takes another turn.
Really?
He starts writing letters to a law student named Jamila,
Okay.
who became fascinated by his story.
I can see why.
Right. So they fall in love.
Through letters.
Yep. And eventually, they get married.
Wow. So did Jamila try to bust him out too?
She did.
Huh?
Another helicopter escape.
Are you serious?
She tried, but the police were ready for it this time.
Oh, no.
Jamila ends up in prison herself.
Wow. Talk about bad luck.
But here's the thing. Even though the escape failed, and they were both in prison,
Yeah.
their love stayed strong.
Really? That's amazing.
It is. And finally, in 2003,
Yeah.
after 27 years in prison,
27 years.
Michelle is finally paroled.
He got out.
He did. He says Jamila's love and his conversion to Islam changed him.
So no more escapes.
Nope, he's living a quiet life now, says he's left his criminal past behind.
Well, that's a relief, I guess. What a crazy story.
I know, right? And the craziest part, both Michelle and Jamila wrote books about all of this.
They did.
Yep, you can read their whole story from their own point of view. Even Nadine wrote a book about her experience.
Wow. So many perspectives.
Right, it really makes you think about what freedom really means.
Yeah, freedom and the choices we make. And love and loyalty.
Exactly. It shows you how complicated life can be,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and how even in the quietest places,
Right.
secrets and darkness can be hiding just below the surface.
So until next time.
Until next time, keep those lights on,
And those doors locked.
and we'll see you on the next deep dive.